Hey everybody, welcome back to the CirdecSongs channel for yet another chat. This one's going to be with an old friend of mine, but before I get started, please do the like, subscribe, and comment thing for me. It makes the algorithm happy, which makes me happy, and then everybody's happy, which is awesome. Uh, it seems to me this is almost an annual thing, me talking to this very nice gentleman. That's not a complaint. That's a very good thing. He keeps me on my toes with releases from his label, I should say, MoonJune Records. He is up way past his bedtime right now, and he's MoonJune is working with the moon in the background. So let's say hello to Leonardo Pavkovic. How are we doing, my
Hi,
friend?
Cedric. Hi, hello, everybody. Yeah, it's 24 hours before the full moon, but the moon is 99% full, and
I
it's
like the
not
air of
moon in
mystery.
June, but it's moon in late August,
it's
and it's
it's
very
close
pleasant
enough.
night. It's like 1:15 a.m. in Spain. This is not tremendously late, but it's kind of late, but I enjoy it. It's very nice and quiet here.
Well, good, good, good. He's a night owl, and he's working in such a way that he's almost mysterious with the background going there. I kind of like
Yeah.
this approach. What's going on in your world these days?
Yeah, there is so much things going on, and I'm see, when I moved from New York City to Toledo, Spain, 20 months ago, I said I will slow down. And actually, in the beginning, it was very nice. But in last 6, 7 months, I think I am like in New York City, in a small town, and things are getting busy, which is good because during the COVID I was busy in different way, but I actually slowed down so much. But now things are picking up. I reassess my things here in Spain. I was a little bit absent with my labels releases, except few of them, because I had to take care of new setup, a new structure. But I'm very busy booking, and I think I'm busier than ever. I have so many bands that I have to book in 2024, even in 2025, believe it or not. And I have a band on tour right now called the Tuner, and very soon I will be in USA, in Canada with Soft Machine, and then I for 3.5 weeks. Then I'm coming back to Europe, and I have a 4.5 weeks tour with Stickman, and then I'm building a lot of tours for other bands, which requires a lot of time and effort and patience because I'm going for direct booking, straight to the venue, straight to the promoters. I don't use third parts, which means that I have to sometimes, now I have like a very nice and big tour of Pact in January, February. I might have close to 40 shows. That means I have to make contracts with 40 different venues. And,
No big deal.
fortunately, my contracts and agreements are very simple. They can fit on one page, 1.5 page. But that's how I'm busy. But then on the other side, I'm also busy because I'm doing my second festival. Last year was kind of, much easier because it was in my hometown, Jajce, in former Yugoslavia. Today is Bosnia and Herzegovina, where I was born. And it was a festival that was kind of it is small because different involvement, and but then when I decided to do another festival here in Toledo in Spain, things got a little bit busier because while where I was born in Bosnia wasn't very easy to be reached from any place in the world because the closest airports were either 1.5 hour or 3.5 hour from there. And but we are in close proximity to Madrid in central Spain, only 45 to 50 minutes from the airport, and which means Madrid is a big city, like 4 or 5 million people. There is a lot of things to be done, for the promotion to be done, and and I have 12 different artists, and I have also associate. Sort of partner, we are doing together. He's a creative director of the festival, my good friend Mauricio D'Aginaco, because we are not doing just this festival. This is a pilot festival for something much bigger that we hope to achieve in next year, like a bigger festival, not just MoonJune Festival, a couple of other festivals that I cannot still reveal, but I might reveal in maybe during my festival in the end of September. and that takes a lot of time because booking artists, that's easy part, but then we have to think about logistics and also try to schmooze people from the government, not for this year because we are late, we don't have any support, but next year we are investing a lot of time and also some of my personal money into this thing because there is a lot of potential in the future, and all that requires a lot of time, because if it's just one-off festival, that will be easy. I book the band, I arrange few things, that's it. But this is kind of much more involved, and because I do so many other things that requires a lot of time, and I'm getting tired. That's why one of these conversations with my old good friends in USA, like you, it's a very welcoming party because I can be on my terrace, enjoy full moon and nice breeze, and talk to you. And of course, I hope to see you in maybe when is that, in a month and a half, I guess, in Chicago.
Yes, yes. I will be there. I will be there.
Excellent.
Let's talk about your
We have a
festival.
couple of
How
weeks together.
makes sense. Let's talk about your festival. How did you feel last year's festival
Last
went?
year was a success, but it was different kind of festival. It was, my festivals are not, they're very unusual because before I start talking about last year and this year, like just one little kind of thing, like detail, like, when I started planning this festival and I announced that I'm doing festival, people say, "Oh, you have festival. Do you need the bands?" I said, "No, because the reason that I'm doing festival, because I have a band, I have bands. And actually,
Right.
there is very long list. And unfortunately, like, I have to say no to so many artists. Many of them I never met in my life. They're just contacting me all the time. And I understand that. But, like one of the main reasons that I do festivals, because I have so many bands, not just on my record label, but also on my booking roster, because 90% of my booking roster, they are not people on MoonJune Records. But I have a lot of artists, and that's why I'm doing the festival. And that's a good thing because it allows me to count on people that I know that they're my friends, that I just ask them if they're available. And because I needed Soft Machine so badly that I needed to adjust dates that it fits exactly before the North American tour. And then several artists, and that was the only period that actually I was able to do, because I have a big tour in North America, then I have a big tour of Stickman in Europe, then I have a couple of trips, maybe Indonesia or South Africa at the end of the year, and then I said, okay, see who is available, and I started by elimination. Several people that I really wanted, they're friends of mine, they could make it, like Spanish legends Carlos Benavent and Jorge Pardo, then Gary Husband and Nguyen Lee. Then also I invited Bill Bruford to be a special guest to do some kind of roundtables and discussions about industry of music and his career. He wasn't available. Like Mike Ratledge wasn't available, but then I said, okay, these people are available, and let's see what I can do. And then when I organize dates, I say, okay, originally I wanted to do 2 days. Then I say, okay, I can do 3 days because it's a little bit better, because I can do other things, literary events and round tables. Then I said, okay, first day we have a sort of mix of jazz, rock, progressive, avant-garde, improvisation, blah, blah. And I have amazing, he's a very well-known session guitar player. He played on 100 or over 150 albums on virtually everybody that makes music in this country, mostly pop, some rock, some blues, as usual. But he's amazing fusion guitar player. He studied guitar with Scott Henderson. He's very good friend with Scott Henderson. And I said, look, we became friends, and he's a local. He actually is from Madrid, but he lives also in Toledo. I said, look, we are friends and I would like you to play with your trio. He said, okay. But then, because I introduced him to Stu Ham, who is playing on his upcoming album, and he's friend with Keith Carlock, and he contacted those two guys, and then Keith is playing with Toto, and Stu is touring with I don't know whom, and then he's playing with his Spanish band. Then second band is Anchor and Burden, which is a kind of sort of I call it 23rd century jazz. because even though for orthodoxy of jazz, that's not jazz, but to me it's a jazz because it's improvisational music. The only thing that is played different way and with different sonic approach, but it's sort of jazz. And then I have it's metallic, psychedelic, space, futuristic, but to me it's jazz. And yeah, I have soft machine, and then that's the first day. Then second day, I have this kind of interesting blend. First day is on 29th of September, Friday. On Saturday, 30th, I have this kind of interesting blend of flamenco artists, but it's not really flamenco. Flamenco is a flamenco mixed with fusion, jazz, rock, and improvised music, and tango and Afro-Cuban music. And the first band is a good friend of mine, Jaco Abel. He used to live in USA for several years, and with his trio, unbelievable guitar player with phenomenal bass player Julian Heredia, and very great like drummer percussionist. Then second artist is extremely talented young guitar player from Salamanca, a couple of hours from here, Amos Lora. When Amos was 10, 11 years old, Paco de Lucia said, "You are next me," because this guy was so talented that Paco saw him and he felt in the same way than when he was 10 years old, when he was seen by another amazing guitar player 50, 60 years ago, telling him the same thing. And they're supposed to do something, and then unfortunately Paco died a few months later. That was like about 10, 11 years ago. But Amos, he started playing flamenco guitar, but he also plays electric guitar. He's very much influenced by Pat Metheny, a little bit by Alan Holdsworth and John Scofield, and he's a kind of jazz guy. But his band is kind of international. He has two Cuban musicians. One is a piano and keyboard player. One is an upright bass player, electric upright bass player. And it's kind of a very interesting blend of flamenco, jazz fusion, and Afro-Caribbean music. Then the third act is a duo, two very relatively famous musicians here in Spain. Diego Amador, he's a multi-instrumentalist. He plays every single instrument that is available on this planet, but he's predominantly acoustic piano player, former guitar player, and also singer. He will play on this show piano, and with Jose Maria Bandera, flamenco guitarist. He's a nephew of Paco de Lucia. They will play like tunes dedicated of Paco de Lucia, but in sort of jazz arrangements. And in this way, we have kind of three different setups of flamenco. First, we have kind of fusion, flamenco, jazz rock. Then we have second kind of flamenco meets Afro-Caribbean. And then third one, we see like this kind of just acoustic setup, piano and flamenco guitar, but very improvised, jazzy tunes of flamenco. And it's very interesting. Then third day, on October 1st, last day, Sunday, we have I call it like musicians from all around the world to make better this world, because as you know, I'm a traveler, world traveler. I've been everywhere in the world, and I have only one nationality. I always say I'm not patriot, I'm earthiot.
That fits.
And yeah, because I'm very mixed. I have so many different bloods in my big body. And then I don't, I always say, like, because my company is called MoonJune, I said, the last time when I was on the moon is behind me. When I was seeing the planet Earth, I didn't see any borders.
That makes sense.
And I'm a citizen of the world, and I have friends everywhere in the world, and I'm very inclusive kind of guy, and then because on my label and my booking roster, I have people from all around the world. And it's just coincidental. I didn't say, oh, I have to have this multinational band. It's just coincidental that Toledo, my best friend in New York, who is from Uruguay but lives in USA for 33 years, Vicky Derman from Indonesia, their bands are multinational. Toledo will open that evening with his old friend from 4 years ago, when Pato Munoz, amazing bass player, still was living in Uruguay, but he lives now in Spain. He played with virtually everybody, also in the pop. He's a session player, but amazing fusion jazz bass player. And then on piano, in keyboards, will be Dominique Vantom from Belgium. He has one album on MoonJune. he will play not the full show, but he will, because Toledo is a guitar player and piano player. Then when Toledo plays guitar, somebody has to play piano. And then we have Dominique, who by accidentally who bought the tickets to perform to come to he wanted to come to festival with his wife. Said, "Can I play piano?" I said, "Of course you can play piano." And then we have Xavi Reija, a great friend of mine from Barcelona, drummer. I have several albums on my label. He and Toledo, they never played together, but they know each other. And then I have on sax one of the happiest men in the world, Ofer Asaf, amazing sax player originally from Israel, who used to live in New York for many years. Now he's back in Israel, and that's international band of Toledo. Then after Toledo, I have a very interesting woman. She's from Madrid but lives in Toledo, Ana Alcaide. She's a very prominent musician in the medieval Spanish music and Sephardic music. And also she did a lot of so-called world music, performing, recording with musicians from Northern Africa, from Middle East, from Caribbean, from Indonesia, from Japan, from Mongolia, from Iran, from various parts. And she is playing a very unusual instrument, a nickel harp, ancient instrument, and she plays also violin and sings. And then she will be accompanied by her husband, who is American. This is another internationalism, Bill Cooley, who actually was my neighbor in New York City. I didn't know him, because when I met him, I said, "Oh, I used to live in East Village." "Where?" "I used to live on 5th Street." "Oh, I used to live on 6th Street and 7th Street." "Oh, we were neighbors, but we didn't know each other." And he plays lute and oud, which are very similar instruments, but he's playing those two instruments. Then after that, I have Vicky Darmawan and his international band. Actually, it's filled with 3 Indonesians, actually, Vicky himself, then Deva Bujana, guitar player, his friend for 30 plus years, and then Ivan Nestorman. 3 guys are from 3 different ethnic backgrounds in Indonesia. What is interesting that Vicky has this project for 20 plus years called the World Peace Band, or sometimes it was World Peace Orchestra. It was always Vicky. He was always playing with international artists from Africa, from China, from Mongolia, from Japan, from South America, from North America, like people like like Frank Gabale or Jimmy Haslip, and Stephen Thornton, a lot of people. Andy Suzuki, a lot of people played in that band, and in this case, he's a Muslim from Java, of Sundanese ethnic background, Deva Bujana, who is a Hindu Balinese, and Ivan Nestorman, who is from island of Flores, that used to be once upon a time Portuguese colony. He's Christian, and he's kind of fits into this kind of Dviki's philosophy that no matter who we are, what kind of race or religion or ethnicity, we are all together. Then, interestingly, that Indonesia does have a diplomatic relationship with Israel. Because Indonesia doesn't recognize Israel, but doesn't matter, because we people like musicians and myself, we don't care, because we recognize people, and there are 2 Israeli guys playing with Indonesians, which is Ofer Asaf again on sax and Yaron Stavi on bass. We have a Mexican guy, a good friend of mine who lives in Italy, Israel Varela, who is not Israeli, but his name is Israel. And it's kind of very kind of symbolic, kind of mixed of people. But what will happen, because before Dwiki's performance, Israel Varela will perform for 30 minutes. He's a drummer, but also singer and piano player, and also conductor of orchestra. He will do 30 minutes of program called Música Pintada, and maybe Diego Amador, from the previous night, his friend for many years, he will join him. Because what is happening, Israel, where he was only 18, he couldn't come to USA, and he came to Italy, and then he went to Spain, and he eventually played with everybody, with who is who in Spanish and jazz and flamenco. And then coming here to Spain is like for him coming home. And then at the opening ceremony on the September 28th, before the festival, I have opening ceremony. Then I have a duo of very good friends of mine. They will play each of them 1 or 2 tunes by themselves. They will play together. Anthony Garone and Dennis Ray. And I mentioned so many people But there is one thing that most of these people, they know each other personally. Some of them, they don't know each other. A couple of guys that they're session guys with this kind of Spanish artists. I never met them, especially these two Cuban guys and a couple of percussionists. But everybody else, it's virtually my friend. And because one of the reasons, see, I'm doing this festival for a couple of reasons. First of all, I would like to promote my brand. That's obvious. That's why festival is called MoonJune. But also, as I told you before, I believe this kind of inclusivity in the world. I hate these kind of divisions in the world, and having friends from four different continents and from different race. We have Afro-Caribbeans, we have Southeast Asians, we have Europeans, we have South Americans, we have North Americans. This is my world because, and it's all, to celebrate friendship, arts, music, culture, to eat together, to drink together, to enjoy music together, to have a good time, and to leave on October 1st or October 2nd, October 3rd, to leave our home, say, wow, what amazing time we had, same as what happened in Bosnia. And this is probably the main philosophical reason to have this festival, because I cannot have festival of just prog or just blues or just jazz or just this and that, just from one country. First of all, I'm unable to do it because of the nature of what I'm doing. Secondly, it comes so spontaneously and organically natural to me to have these friends that are from different parts of the world to join forces and to enjoy life and world. And because I remember when I had another band with Vicky called the World Peace Quartet that we played in a couple of festivals in Europe, and we had one Indonesian guy, Muslim, we had one Israeli guy, Jewish, we had one Palestinian guy, Christian, we had Boris Avaldi from Italy, who is an atheist, and we had this kind of band, and we said always one thing, when we are at the table, eating food and talking about music, we forget where we are coming from. And you see, in this today's world, we always forget that we are just human beings, and that's why we have to socialize more in this way, to share things.
Well, it just shows that music is a universal language.
Music is a universal language. I think more than any other art. I don't want to, say that other arts are not unifying. Like poetry, like paintings, like theater and dance, or
Sure.
whatever, architecture. But I believe that music, especially instrumental music. See, most of this music is instrumental. Very few people will sing. Israel Varela will sing one or two tunes. Diego Mador will sing a little bit, and Al Al-Qaeda will sing a little bit. But everything is virtually instrumental music. That way, we don't have to care about who said what. We just listen to music, because I always believe that as much I like music with lyrics and music sung by a vocalist, I like instrumental music because it gives me this kind of freedom of, I don't want to hear anybody. I just want to hear the sound, because it's so neutral, neutralizes everybody. And that's how it is in my world.
That's what led me to jazz in the first place 40 odd years ago. I got tired of hearing people sing, and I just wanted to hear people play, and I have never left. It's not just festivals for you. I mean, you have a great location there, and you have a lot of people traipsing in and out around your home. Who's been hanging out there lately?
I had a lot of people coming here. My first guest was a friend of mine from Sweden, but he's actually from Boston, from my hometown. He was the very first guy to come to visit me. Then immediately after him, Marcus Reuter came. Then I had Xavi Reja. Then I had Tony Levin. I had Toledo. I had Dennis Ray. I had Anthony Garone. I had my friend Jesus Rovira, who is the guy from La Casa Murada. And my home is open. One day when you come, you are welcome to stay with me. And
Let's,
during
let's
the
say, I'm going to make
festival,
that
I booked.
list.
Yeah, on my festival I booked because there are not so many hotels in Old Town, and they are mostly booked. I booked everybody in apartments because they have very nice apartments. And then one of the apartment, I have two apartments. One that I'm renting is a big house. Then I have a couple of apartments that I purchased recently, and I'm just putting people over there. Like we'll just share. Nobody complains about anything. In my home I will have like 5 people. And a friend of mine is taking Toledo and Anthony Garone and Anthony Zangrone, friend of Dennis Ray from Syracuse, who lives now in Italy, and because it's all about sharing things and staying together, being together, and enjoying life.
That's nice. That's a great way to look at it. We Let me ask you this: you get a lot of people together frequently, and they
Yeah,
come into a room, and for the most part, they improvise. What is it about improvised music that appeals to you so much?
it's a freedom because see, like when we started this conversation, we didn't know what we are going to talk about. We said, "Oh, maybe we can talk about this, about that," but at the end, we improvised, and the entire life is improvised. It's improvisation, and it's very natural for me as a person who accepts fully that life is improvisation. And I have to tell you one thing: I don't believe in perfection. There is no such thing. It will never exist. It never existed, and that's it. Life is improvisation, and we have to deal with that. And then, if you are a good improviser, then you can deal well with your life. Same thing is in music. I appreciate people that can improvise because it's not just the blowing instruments. Like some of free jazz I don't like. It's kind of just free blowing. Of course, if I listen to Ornette Coleman, that's another thing. But a lot of times, like free jazz at certain point became just free noise and about. But it's not. But I like improvised music when people are listening each other. Like I remember the first improvised album that I really like was posthumous album of John Coltrane with Rashid Ali, and I was very much into John Coltrane and Ornette Coleman and all these kind of people, heavy improvisers, because it wasn't just blowing the instrument; it was listening to each other. And we are talking about something that I just mentioned before, like about division in the world that we have. That one of the things that people are divided, that we don't listen to each other. And when people improvise in the way that I like them to improvise, in the way that they like to improvise, it's they're listening to each other, which means they're paying attention to what other people are thinking, feeling, and expressing. And that's what I like, because that's what shows you how people can be close to each other. That's where is the connection. See, I remember when I did probably my favorite album on MoonJune, because it's completely crazy. It's Dviki Darmaman's Hariketiga. That's totally insane album. It's Marcus Reuter, Dviki Darmaman, Asaf Sirkis, and Boris Aldeli. And this album was recorded the third day of recordings at La Casa Murada. That's why it's called Hariketiga, which in Indonesian means the third day. First 2 days, Dviki made a regular album, composed music with Carles Benavent, Neguen Lee, Yaron Stavi, and Asaf Sirkis. Then third day, I just told them, you just improvise. And Asaf and Marcus play together. Boris and Dviki play together. Asaf and Dviki play together. And Marcus and Boris play together. But as a fourth combo of these people, they never play together. But they just started improvising. And what it was happening when they were improvising, two things. Once, normally, at Casa Murada, we order the food and food is ready, and then musicians, they make a break and they go to eat. And I said to guys, okay, let's improvise, and then when we finish, we'll go to eat. And then they say, okay, normal improvisation, like 15, 20 minutes, half hour, and let's go. And they improvise. And during that improvisation, times flew so fast that at the end, Asaf said, wow, we improvised. I think we improvised for more than 35, 40 minutes. I say, Asaf, no, you improvised for 65 minutes because
Wow.
the time flew around that they were in zone, that they didn't realize the passing of the time. And then during that same tune, I was in a control room. Was Jesus Rovira, the sound engineer, owner of La Casa Morada, right side. On my left side was a friend of mine from Malaga, Francisco Macias, who came just to see me and to meet Dvicky in person. He already knew a couple of musicians in person. And then at a certain point, I was just standing, and through the window, the glass, thick glass between a control room and the studio, main room, I was feeling that music was kind of going down, but Vicky started doing some amazing. I had headphones. Vicky was started playing some kind of very lyrical kind of passages on very soft on piano, and then something was telling inside of myself, like, I have to communicate with Vicky. I said, Vicky, just, but he didn't see me. But he continued playing, and then they continued for another half hour. And because I was connecting, and Vicky said, Mas Leo, Mas means brother in Indonesian, I didn't see you, I didn't hear you, but I was feeling you. And see, we were in a zone of telepathic connection because the vibe was so great that we were connecting to each other. Because this is the beauty of life. Because going back to my original meaning of this, that in this world of superficiality, of cellular phones, of Google search, we lost the sense to find the real meaning of life, and we lost the sense of communicating with people. But in this case, in case of my friends and myself, that I found myself to be part of them, that we were able to communicating with each other. See, I don't tell musicians what to play. They don't say to each other what to play. We are just there, and they started playing, but they are listening to each other. There is no discussion about do this and that. And I can tell you one story from the first year of La Casa Morada 2016. I don't know if I told you. I organized 6 days recording session. First 2 days supposed to be just improvisation between Mark Winfield, Marcus Reuter, and Asaf Sirkis. Third and fourth day, Mark was recording his album with Yaron Stavi and Asaf Sirkis. Fifth and sixth day, Dusan Jeftovic, Serbian guitar player who lives in Barcelona, he was doing a session for his studio album with Vasil Hadjimanov from Serbia and Asaf Sirkis. Asaf was doing 6 days in a row. He was the only drummer on these days. But Asaf and Yaron are very close friends. They played over 1,500 shows together with so many musicians, with Nigel Kennedy, with Gilad Atzmon, with so many different people. And Yaron supposed to do like third and fourth day of recording. But because he wanted to hang out, he came day before. Actually, 2 nights before. But he stayed in Barcelona because he came very late. He stayed with a friend of mine, a bass player. And then the next morning, which is the second day of recording session between that was involving Mark Winfield, Marcus Reuter, Asaf Sirkis, he came by the train. And he came to studio around 11:30, 12 o'clock. And he's a very, very nice guy, very happy and, very unique kind of, figure with thick glasses and, bald and, shaved and beautiful human being. And he's very funny, and everybody knows that he's funny. And he sat down with us. We had some coffee, and say, okay, the guys will improvise a little bit more. You can join us for lunch. Great, great, great. Then at a certain point, I don't know. It was who was saying that. I think it was Asaf and me at the same time. Yaron, you are here. You have a bass. You have yourself. There is a place in studio. Go there and let's play together. And I said, yes, that's what you have to go do. And he actually went there, did a very quick sound check. In a matter of 10 minutes, he hooked up the bass and did a quick sound check. It was great. And they started recording. And that's the first album from La Casa Morada, The Stone House, which means that 10 minutes before recording of that album, we didn't have any idea that we will ever record anything like that. They just went to the studio and just music was just flowing and flowing and flowing. And that's amazing album. And that's why I say I will release this album first, because it's so magic. Because this is another thing that tells you about improvisation. Not that they just only improvised as musicians. We improvise before improvisation. They say, okay, just go there, forget about lunch, we will eat later. Just play with your friends. Let's have fun. And that's what I like in life, improvisation. That's also improvisation, not just music. The life is improvisation.
That makes perfect sense. That explains everything right there. We were talking off the air about something I'd like to talk about on the air, because you've got a lot of new projects coming down the pipe. What can you tell us about those?
Yeah, this year I didn't release so many albums because I came here to Spain. I had to organize my setup. I was waiting for my new distribution that I have with Flatiron Records Recordings, American company that is based between Colorado Springs and Poland. With my old friend Bill Hine, who used to run Ryko Disc and Enigma Restless, and then I just put many things, I said, look, guys, we'll just start releasing albums like later. Of course, I released Soft Machine album, version that is not European English version, because the band released the album in UK and in Europe, and I released in the rest of the world in end of June, early July. Then all other releases I pushed to September, but now I push them to November. And but those albums are recorded like last year or even like a couple of years ago. The first release, it will be of Mark Winfield. We recorded that session with Asaf Sirkis and Gary Husband at La Casa Murada before the COVID, believe it or not. But because of the COVID, we put that aside, and Mark had something else. We released that album, and we put it aside. And then at a certain point, I said to Mark, that album is supposed to be without bass player, with Mark doing things on synth and guitar, to emulate bass parts. It's supposed to be a different kind of album. And 4 tunes on that album were recorded with 2 drums. We had 2 drum kits, Asaf and Gary Husband. And other 6 tunes were recorded with only Asaf. But on every tune, Gary Husband over the piano, mini moog, and synths. Then we put that album aside. Then last year, or maybe even like in the beginning of last year, I said, let's put bass players. Then Mark, who loves fretless bass, he said, what do you think? I said, look, I have 2 uncles in New York State, in New York City. One plays fretless upright bass, electric, and one plays fretless bass guitar. And we'll have Uncle Tony on 6 tunes and Uncle Percy on 4 tunes. And the album is simply unbelievable. That's the first album. Second album is of Anchor and Burden. This kind of, as I call it, 23rd century psychedelic futuristic jazz. It's a tremendous album. This is tremendous band. This is, again, Asaf Sirkis. What I can say, whenever I can, this Asaf Sirkis. And then that's album that was recorded also last year. Third album is Toledo. Guess what? Asaf Sirkis is on drums.
He's the drummer that
and
gets
I have
around.
2 legends of Spanish jazz and flamenco, Carles Benavent, who is one of my favorite bass players, also Tony Levins, one of favorite players, and Jorge Pardo, legend on sax and flute. They played with Chicoria and Paco de Lucia and all of those guys. And I have on half of the album Gary Husband. I always have these guys, Gary and Asaf and Marcus and Mario. And then the fourth album is the album will be called La Casa Murada. The fourth album is of amazing Iranian band. Last year in December, this Iranian guys called Quartet Diminished. They last album was produced by Manfred Eicher from ECM, but somehow ECM couldn't release album, and Manfred gave them as a present. They released on some other label. But then I said, guys, I will do album because I became friend with them, especially with the guitar player Exxon Sadigi. We went to La Casa Murada. This band normally they don't have bass. They have electric guitar, acoustic piano, clarinet, bass clarinet, soprano sax, and drums. But they said, "Look, Leonardo, we need your help. We want Tony Levin." And I said, "Yes, you will have Tony Levin." And Tony Levin recorded half of the album, one very long tune divided in 4 parts and one shorter tune. And then I gave that album to Markus Reuter to mix and say, Markus, if you think you need to put something, feel free to do whatever you want. Which means that Markus virtually put his sound on every track. Sometimes background track, sometimes he's solo, sometimes like a harmony plays, amazing album. And that's also coming in the November. Then the 5th album is a debut album on MoonJune by a very nice, beautiful human being called Luca Calabrese. Luca Calabrese is a very old friend with Markus Reuter. He's an Italian trumpet player. He's a jazz guy, but he's also, when he plays his own music, he's more kind of like Arve Hendrickson or Nils Peter Molvær, kind of very ambient and, like Mark Isham and these kind of guys. And then because we asked him to come to La Casa Murada to do album with all those guys, with Mark Winfield, Niguen Lee, and Markus Reuter and Asaf Sirkis, and then at a certain point, me and Markus said, enough of recording our stuff. Now we will record album for Luca. And I say, guys, go to studio. See, we improvised even that. We had like 5 hours time. He said, what we gonna do? We improvise more, we do more stuff. No, now it's turn of Luca. Luca, go to studio and let's do an album for you. He was really said, of course. And he has on this album again Asaf Sirkis, Markus Reuter again, Mark Finfield again, and Nguyen Lee. And it's an amazing album, which means that how many albums I said? 5
That's
albums?
That's
on
5.
4 albums, I have Asaf Sirkis. On several albums, I have Markus Reuter. See, like I'm a little bit spoiled. I always do with the same guys. And those are the albums that I will release this year. Then early next year, I am releasing the new Pact album that we recorded last year, but we couldn't release because we didn't have enough shows. Because between Kenny Grohovsky and Alex Kolnick, these guys are some of the busiest musicians in the world. They play everywhere in the world all the time. But now we have like 5 to 6 weeks tour in USA in January, February, and then it's very good time to release the album and promote the tour. And then I have to talk to Alex Kolnick, who is also, very busy because he recorded his trio album last year. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to be at that session in New York City because I was in Spain and traveling. But Alex Kolnick is a good friend of mine and one of the most amazing guitar players in the world. And I said, Alex, we have to do it together, And actually, I don't know when that album will be released. Supposed to be in first trimester, but maybe we'll push it for the second trimester. And I have many other albums, but those are kind of basically like 5 or 6 releases that I've held until January.
Nice. So there's plenty to look forward to, and of course you'll be on the road.
Plenty of Markus Reuter and Asaf Sirkis, man. I'm sorry, very important. In January, together with Pac, I'm releasing again Markus Reuter with Gary Husband. I completely forget that. Of course, I didn't forget, but I forget right now. I'm supposed to release that album this year, but I will release that album in January. It's remember when we were in Japan, we did that cancellation of the tour of Stickman because of the pandemic. We stayed extra days, and me, Markus, and Gary, I found the studio. They did a beautiful kind of very ambient jazz album. But now we went to Casa Murada last year when Toledo was recording his album, and we recorded. And what is amazing that when Markus came to Casa, he told me, I'm not bringing touch guitar. I knew it, but I forget. When he came from Berlin to Barcelona, we picked him at the airport, said, "Where is your guitar?" I didn't bring it. Fine. But he brought his laptop. And then he sat on Fender Rhodes. And he played the most amazing Fender Rhodes that you will ever imagine. And that Fender Rhodes sounds like touch guitar.
Huh.
And the Gary husband played keyboards, acoustic piano, drums, percussion. He was even singing, improvising, singing on one part. And Marcus Reuter, at a certain point, he remembered that his favorite musician of all times is Mike Oldfield. He saw Jesus Rovira, his owner of studio, his bass player, guitar player. He saw acoustic guitar. He took acoustic guitar for the first time in 25, 30 years. He played acoustic guitar. And he recorded a beautiful piece in the vein of Mike Oldfield, which is unbelievable. And I'm very proud of those two guys because, man, Marcus Roy, the Gary husband, not only they are two among my best friends among musicians, but they are among two most amazing musicians in this world. And I'm very fortunate guy that I can work with these kind of musicians, that they are friends and truly amazing musicians. And these musicians probably not are very famous, except Gary husband is very well known. Tony and Percy are very famous. But I'm very happy also for these musicians that they are less known, like Luca Calabrese, like these Iranian guys, because I'm giving them little kind of opportunity, little window to expose themselves. And we know that this music cannot sell. You know, we are not making music to be sold. Like, you know, we are making music for ourselves to be happy. If we can sell, we can sell.
It ain't Taylor Swift, that much is certain. So.
Yeah, look, you know. I remember, Derek Schulman, who is also one of my best friends, he said, like, Leonardo, who is buying this music that you do? Like, you know, who are those people? I said, say, Derek, nobody.
there's somebody out there.
A couple of crazy guys, you know, like, you know.
Well, you just never know.
But this is another thing about MoonJune. Like, you know, when I do album, I never think, say, oh, I have to sell this album. No, we just make albums and then see what happens, you know. That's why we improvise albums. That's why we make 3 albums in one day, because it's cheap. There is another reason why we make instrumental albums, because it's very expensive to print like a 16 pages booklet with lyrics. We cut to that expense.
a couple of quick pictures and you're done.
Just like how you can make money in selling records, make instrumental music, improvise, make 3 albums in one day, and don't make lyrics.
That definitely reduces the overhead. Leonardo, my friend, we could do this all day, and we have in the past, but we need to get going.
Yeah, it's always fun to talk to you, because you are not just nice guy, good friend, but also you are extremely knowledgeable person, and I like to talk to nerds like you.
That's Captain Nerd, but this is a lot of fun. We're going to talk more as the festival gets closer. We'll get some of the artists that'll be involved, and I'm looking forward to that. But for now, we wish you a good evening, and I know it's past your bedtime, so from the dark.
Yeah, it's like 2:07 in the morning. It's beautiful. I will just have a little glass of a white wine before the sleep, and I will just go to sleep like a little baby.
Sounds perfect. We will talk to you soon.
Okay,
Thanks a
my
lot for
friend.
your time.
We'll talk soon and see you in 6 to 7 weeks.
Sounds good. Take care.
Excellent. Good night.